There is a pattern in human behavior so consistent, so universal, so observable across every culture and every century that I have ever studied, that I eventually stopped treating it as an observation and began treating it as a law. People value what they had to earn, not what was given to them freely, not what arrived without cost or effort or the specific investment of something that mattered, what they had to work for, what they had to wait for, what they had to become something to deserve. This is not a feature of weak character or shallow thinking. It is not the preference of people who do not know how to receive good things graciously. It is a structural feature of human psychology that operates regardless of character, regardless of intelligence, regardless of the genuine quality of what has been given versus what has been earned. The thing that costs something is valued more than the thing that cost nothing, even when the things are identical. Even when the man who received freely and the man who earned through effort hold exactly the same object. The man who earned it holds it differently, values it more consistently, protects it more carefully, returns to it more readily when other options are available. I observed this across my entire career in Florence. In the domain of political alliance, the prince whose loyalty was freely given was worth less than the prince whose loyalty had been carefully cultivated across years of demonstrated reliability. In the domain of counsel, the advisor whose access to the powerful had been easily obtained was less valued than the one whose access had required persistent demonstration of genuine capability. In the domain of influence, the man whose regard was freely extended to anyone who asked for it was respected less than the man whose regard was known to be difficult to earn. My name is Niccolò Machiavelli. Today we examine why this pattern exists, what it reveals about the deepest architecture of human psychology, and what any man who understands it can do with that understanding in every domain of his life. I want to begin with the most important question about this pattern. Why does cost produce value? Not in the abstract philosophical sense, in the specific psychological sense. What is it about the experience of earning something, of working for it, of overcoming resistance to obtain it, that produces a valuation of the thing that free receipt does not produce? The answer, I believe, lies in what cost communicates to the system that assigns value. The brain is a pattern recognition machine that uses available information to assess the worth of what it encounters. And in the absence of direct knowledge of a thing's actual worth, the brain uses indirect signals. Signals that, across the long history of human experience, have been reliably correlated with genuine worth. Cost is one of those signals, and it is one of the most reliable ones available. The reasoning beneath the level of conscious reflection is this: if something requires significant investment to obtain, it is probably worth the investment. Things that are freely available, that cost nothing to obtain, are probably freely available because their worth does not exceed the cost of making them scarce. Things that are difficult to obtain, that require genuine investment, are probably difficult to obtain because their worth exceeds what most people are willing to invest. This reasoning is not always accurate. Freely given things can be extraordinarily valuable. Difficult to obtain things can be worthless despite their cost. But as a heuristic, as a rough guide to the relative worth of things in the absence of direct assessment, cost is a reliable signal. And the brain, which cannot directly assess the worth of everything it encounters, uses reliable signals. The consequence is that the brain genuinely experiences things that cost more as worth more, not as a rational conclusion reached through deliberate analysis, as an automatic, pre-rational valuation that shapes how the thing is experienced and held and returned to across time. This is why the scholarship earned through years of study is valued more than the identical knowledge freely given. Why the relationship developed across months of genuine connection is valued more than the one that arrived instantly and easily. Why the position achieved through years of demonstrated capability is held more carefully than the one inherited without effort. The knowledge, the relationship, the position may be identical in their actual content, but the cost of their acquisition has shaped the valuation of them in a way that the content itself cannot override. The first domain in which I observed this pattern most clearly was the domain of political loyalty and alliance. In the courts and councils of Renaissance Italy, loyalty was the most valuable and most scarce resource available. The prince who had genuine loyalty, the kind that held under genuine pressure and at genuine cost, had something that no amount of money or military force could reliably purchase. And I observed, with a consistency that eventually became entirely predictable, that the loyalty which had been earned, which had been the product of years of demonstrated reliability and genuine service and the specific investment of building a relationship that the other party genuinely valued, was far more durable than the loyalty which had been purchased or freely given. The purchased loyalty held as long as the payment held. The moment the payment stopped or the offer of a better payment arrived from another direction, the purchased loyalty dissolved. It had been a transaction, and transactions end when the terms change. The freely given loyalty, the loyalty of the man who had attached himself to a prince simply because the prince was currently successful or because attachment required no particular cost, was equally unreliable. It had been given without investment. And what had been given without investment could be withdrawn without cost. But the earned loyalty, the loyalty of the man who had invested significantly in the relationship and who valued it in proportion to what it had cost him to build it, held under genuine pressure in ways that purchased and freely given loyalty never did. Because the investment itself had created something that the withdrawal of loyalty would destroy. Not just the relationship, the value of the investment, the years of careful building, the specific cost of having chosen this alliance over the alternatives that were available. The man who walked away from earned loyalty did not merely lose the relationship. He lost everything he had invested in building it, and that specific cost of withdrawal, created by the very investment that produced the loyalty, was the mechanism that made earned loyalty durable in ways that purchased and freely given loyalty could not be. This principle, I came to understand, was not specific to political alliance. It was the mechanism underlying the durability of value in every domain where human beings assign and maintain it. The second observation concerns what I would call the psychology of pursuit and the specific role that resistance plays in producing desire. I have written in other contexts about the neuroscience of dopamine and the wanting system and how variable reward produces more sustained desire than certain reward. Here I want to make the specific point about resistance and what it produces in the pursuing system. The wanting system, the neurological architecture that produces desire and sustains pursuit, is activated most powerfully not by the presence of the desired thing but by the combination of genuine desire and genuine obstacle. The obstacle is not an impediment to desire. It is a component of it. Remove the obstacle and you remove something that was sustaining the desire. What remains may still be valued, but it is valued differently, with less urgency, with less of the specific quality of wanting that the combination of desire and obstacle had produced. I observed this in the domain of political pursuit throughout my career. The advisor position that was immediately offered was accepted without the specific quality of commitment that the position fought for across years produced. The alliance that was freely extended was maintained with less care than the alliance that had required genuine negotiation and genuine demonstration of worth to secure. The obstacle in each case was not the enemy of the value. It was a component of it. And its removal, while relieving the immediate frustration of the pursuit, also removed something that had been sustaining the specific quality of valuation that the pursuit had produced. This principle has specific and important applications in the domain of attraction that I want to address directly. The man who makes himself entirely available, who removes all resistance from the path between his attention and the person seeking it, who gives everything without the other person having to earn any of it, does not produce the valuation he is trying to produce. He produces comfort, warmth perhaps, genuine appreciation, but not the specific quality of valuation that the combination of genuine desire and genuine obstacle produces in the wanting system. The man who is genuinely worth pursuing, whose attention is genuinely difficult to earn, who has genuine standards that the other person must genuinely meet, creates the conditions in which the wanting system can produce what it was built to produce. Not because he is playing games, because the resistance is real, because his standards are genuine, because his attention is genuinely scarce, because his life is genuinely full and his standards are genuinely high and the other person must genuinely become something to earn what they are pursuing. That is the challenge worth meeting. And what is earned through meeting it is valued in proportion to what the meeting required. The third observation concerns what challenge produces in the person meeting it. This is the dimension of the psychology of challenge that is most frequently overlooked in discussions of why people value what they earn. The focus is almost always on the valuation of the thing earned. The equally important observation is what the earning produces in the earner. The person who meets a genuine challenge and earns something through meeting it is not the same person who began the pursuit. The meeting of the challenge has changed them, developed something in them, produced a capability or a quality or a depth of understanding that the person who received the same thing freely does not have. And this change, this development produced by the meeting of genuine challenge, is frequently worth more than the thing the challenge was guarding. I observed this in my own development across my years of service to Florence. The specific capability I developed for clear political analysis was not produced by comfortable observation of politics from a position of safety. It was produced by the specific pressure of operating in a high-stakes environment where the cost of inaccurate analysis was immediate and real. The challenge of the environment produced the capability that made the analysis valuable. And the capability, once produced, was mine in a way that no analysis freely given could ever be. It had been earned through genuine engagement with genuine difficulty. And the earning had produced something in me that the difficulty was, in retrospect, the necessary condition for. This is the deepest argument for the value of challenge that I know how to make. Not the value of the thing earned. The value of what the earning produces in the earner. The man who seeks out genuine challenge, who deliberately places himself in situations that require more of him than he currently has and that will develop what he needs through the specific pressure of requiring it, is not seeking suffering for its own sake. He is building himself through the only mechanism that genuine building has ever used, the requirement of something he does not yet have, and the development of it through the sustained effort of meeting the requirement. Every genuine capability I ever observed in any man of genuine capability had been produced by this mechanism. By genuine challenge genuinely met. By the specific development that the requirement of something not yet possessed, sustained across sufficient time, inevitably produces in the man willing to stay in the difficulty long enough for the development to occur. Challenge is not the obstacle to becoming what you want to become. It is the mechanism. The fourth observation concerns the specific psychology of things that are freely given versus things that are earned, and the different relationships people maintain with each. I want to describe a pattern I observed so consistently across my career that it eventually became something I used as a diagnostic tool for assessing the durability of any alliance, any relationship, any position of influence. How did they get it? Not what did they do once they had it. How did they come to have it? What did it cost them? What did they have to become to earn it? What obstacles did they have to overcome? What investments did they have to make? What development did they have to undergo to arrive at the position they now occupy? The answers to these questions told me, with remarkable reliability, how they would hold what they had. The man who had built his position through years of demonstrated capability and accumulated trust held it with a specific quality of care and attention that was directly proportional to what it had cost him to build it. He understood what he had because he had paid the price of it. He knew what losing it would mean because he had experienced, across the years of building it, the specific difficulty of its construction. The man who had inherited his position, who had arrived at it through birth or luck or the free generosity of someone with the power to give it, held it differently. Not necessarily carelessly, but without the specific quality of understanding that comes from having built the thing yourself. Without the intimate knowledge of its construction that makes its maintenance second nature. Without the specific investment in its value that comes from having paid the price of its acquisition. This difference between the holder who built and the holder who received was visible in how each navigated the challenges that every position eventually faces. The builder had the capability and the commitment that the challenges required. The recipient frequently did not. Not because he was less capable in some inherent sense, because the specific capability required to maintain a position is frequently the same capability required to build it. And the man who received the position freely never had occasion to develop that capability. The lesson is this: do not seek the free receipt of what you could build. The building produces something that the free receipt does not. And what the building produces is frequently worth more than what was built. The fifth observation is the one that connects everything I have described to the specific domain of attraction and relationship that forms the central concern of this channel. Why is the man who is challenging more compelling than the man who is not? Not the man who is challenging as a performance. Not the man who has studied that challenge is attractive and is manufacturing artificial resistance to produce the appearance of challenge. The man who is genuinely challenging because he is genuinely worth pursuing, whose standards are real, whose attention is genuinely scarce because his life is genuinely full, whose regard, when given, is felt as something earned because it genuinely was. The answer, drawing on everything I have described today, is this. The genuinely challenging man produces in the person pursuing him exactly the psychological conditions that produce genuine valuation, the obstacle that sustains desire, the investment that creates value in proportion to its cost, the development that the pursuit requires and that produces something in the pursuer beyond the thing being pursued, the specific quality of having earned something that gives the earned thing a different status in the earner's experience than anything freely given could have. The man who is genuinely challenging does not create these conditions through strategy. He creates them through the genuine possession of qualities that are genuinely worth the investment of pursuit, through the genuine fullness of a life that makes his attention genuinely scarce, through the genuine standards that make his regard genuinely difficult to earn, through the genuine direction that makes his presence in any relationship a choice rather than a default. These things are not manufactured. They are built. Through the same patient, sustained, unglamorous work that produces everything else worth having. The man who has built a life genuinely worth pursuing is genuinely challenging. Not because he is playing games. Because the genuine worth of what he has built makes the pursuit genuinely worth the investment it requires. And the woman who earns his genuine regard, who becomes through the pursuit something worth his regarding, has earned something that the freely given regard of a less substantial man could never produce. Something genuinely valuable, because it was genuinely earned. I want to close with something I observed in my own life that makes everything I have described more real to me than any abstract observation could. The work I am most proud of, the work that I believe has produced the most genuine value across the 5 centuries since I wrote it, was produced under the most genuinely challenging conditions of my life. In exile, with no position, with no income beyond the modest returns of the farm at Sant Andrea, with no audience I could be certain of and no outcome I could guarantee and no particular reason to believe that what I was writing would ever be read by the people I was writing it for. The challenge was real. The difficulty was genuine. And the work that emerged from that genuine difficulty was the best work I ever did. Not because suffering is productive. Because the specific conditions of the exile, the removal of everything that was not genuinely mine, left me with only the genuine work. The thinking that was actually worth doing. The understanding that had been earned through 14 years of genuine engagement with genuine difficulty in the most politically demanding environment in the known world. The challenge of the exile did not produce the understanding. The 14 years of service produced it. But the challenge of the exile produced the conditions in which the understanding could be expressed with a clarity and a force that the comfortable years of service, with their daily demands and their immediate pressures, had never quite allowed. The prince was earned. Across 14 years of service and 3 years of exile and everything that came before and after. And it has been valued, across 5 centuries, in proportion to what it cost to produce it. Not because the ideas in it are inherently more valuable than ideas that might have been produced in comfort, but because the cost of their production is visible in the quality of the thing produced. In the specific force of a man who had seen what he was writing about from the inside, who had paid the price of understanding it, who had earned the right to speak about it with the authority that genuine experience and genuine difficulty produce. That is the psychology of challenge expressed in the most personal terms I know how to use. What costs something is worth something. What costs nothing is worth accordingly. Choose the challenge. Not because difficulty is virtuous. Because what the challenge produces in you, across the sustained engagement with what you do not yet have and must become to earn, is the only thing that genuine becoming has ever required. Go earn something. Something real. Something difficult. Something that requires you to become more than you currently are in order to deserve it. And then value what you have earned with the full understanding of what it cost you to earn it. Because you will. That is not a choice. That is the psychology.